Hey guys, how's it going? So with the OnePlus Nord finally launching here, the company finally has brought out an affordable option for the masses. Speaking of affordable options, one of the best budget smartphones that you can buy is the POCO X2. It has some serious value for money, but I just wanted to see how the camera of the POCO X2 fares against the newly launched OnePlus Nord. Which device has the better software optimization, because in terms of hardware in the spec sheet, the POCO X2 definitely stands out as the winner, considering that it is also priced at a lower price tag. But does the OnePlus Nord offer enough optimization to make its price tag worth it? Let's find out. This is Varun from Guiding Tech, and today I'll be doing an in-depth camera comparison of the OnePlus Nord with the POCO X2. Let's get started. Let's kick things off with some HDR shots. In this first shot, you can see that both the phones do an excellent job, but POCO does darken the frame a bit. On the other hand, with the OnePlus Nord, you get a vibrant yet realistic color reproduction that also has a slight edge with the HDR. Now in this next shot, you'll see that the POCO X2 has a brighter image, but it's actually brightened the entire frame, thus also blowing the sun an extra bit. Both are great shots, but yeah, the Nord gets a slight edge here. However, in this next HDR shot, OnePlus has a more polished result where the lens flare, the sun, the greens and the crispness of the ground are all there. With the POCO X2, things are just slightly diminished. Moving on to some focus on greens, one of the biggest faults with POCO is the way that it saturates and warms up the image. See, individually also, you can tell that the colors on the X2 are boosted, and when you put the Nord shot alongside it, you get an idea of how big that difference is. That said, I will give credit where it's due, which is that POCO consistently produces a sharper image. Now, one of the major reasons for this has to be the fact that POCO has a bigger sensor and the pixel binned images are also almost triple the size of the Nord. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to some reds, and the story is pretty much the same. POCO oversaturates the image massively but also produces sharper images. OnePlus is closer to reality and what I personally would want from my phone. And even in this next shot of some yellows, you'll see that POCO shot is just way too bright and saturated. In fact, both the yellow flower and the leaves behind it. So yeah, while I would personally go for a more natural and realistic finish offered by the OnePlus, I can totally understand people preferring POCO shots that have been slightly tuned. And that is the reason why I always have the full res download links to all of our camera comparisons in the description box. You can download them, take a look at all the untouched full res images for yourself and do an in-depth analysis of your own to decide which phone suits your interests better. Okay, now take a look at this shot with the focus being on the greens. It's a simple basic shot, but when you switch to the ultrawide sensor, you'll notice the massive color shift in POCO's shot. Now that is not to say that OnePlus maintains the color profile, but it does a far better job than the POCO X2 for sure in that aspect. That said, if you zoom into the image, even though POCO does take the support of over-sharpening here, the image definitely looks more detailed on the X2, while on the OnePlus, things do get a bit hazy. I think I would actually pick the POCO X2 here because details is one thing I value more, especially when the image is large enough for me to play with the colors without destroying it. Moving on to full res shots, and well, the results are pretty much what you would expect. The Nord has a 48 megapixel sensor while the POCO has a 64 megapixel sensor. The Nord does click a good shot for sure, but in this aspect you really can't argue over the fact that POCO's bigger sensor comes in super handy. Add to that the over-sharpening that POCO does and you get an image that allows you to pixel peep a lot without getting any pixelation. In terms of colors and all, the story is pretty much the same as what we've seen so far, which is that the POCO oversaturates things while OnePlus offers a more natural color reproduction. Next up, we have human portraits, and okay, this is a mixed bag. See, when it comes to human subjects, OnePlus has a history of adding a reddish tint to your face, which also sometimes affects your clothes. As you can see in the shot, not only my face but also my t-shirt is off color. With the POCO, while you do get higher saturation as always, which is evident by the greens behind, the overall image does appear at least in the same general category of colors. Not to forget that it is sharper too. However, switch to the portrait mode and well, POCO has this beautification thing going on that completely smoothens my face out, despite all such settings being turned off. As for OnePlus, it recovers well, and for the most part, it is a better image, except for that unrealistic edge detection where it also registers some part of the tree as the main subject as well. Now that is obviously a software glitch which can be easily fixed by a software update. Speaking of which, at the time of recording this video, I just got a notification on my Nord of a second OTA update that should fix things. And that is something that we've seen with OnePlus happen quite a lot. They improve their camera quality with frequent updates quite often. This happened with the 7 series, the 7T series, the 8 Pro as well, and now obviously with the Nord. So anyway, keeping all of that in mind, make sure that you subscribe to our channel because I will be doing an in-depth, long-term review of the OnePlus Nord after all the major updates of the phone have been received after a month or so. So make sure that you tune in. Moving on to the rear video, the POCO X2 does oversaturate things a lot. But for everything else, my on-the-spot analysis while looking at the phones while recording was pretty much spot on. So take a look. So recording 1080p 30fps footage from the POCO X2 which is on my right and the OnePlus Nord which is on my left. The OnePlus also offers a super stability mode that goes up to 1080p 30fps. There's no super stability mode as such available on the POCO X2, but the footage seems to be decently stable, at least right now in front of my screen. Obviously I'll take a look at this on my desk to tell you more about the colors and all, since one has an AMOLED panel and the other has an LCD display. But I think both the phones are performing really good, panning the cameras around, and both the phones seem fine. Things seem a little bit saturated on POCO. Actually, they're a bit brighter and a bit more warmer as well. But like I said, I'll have to take a look at it once I see them on my desktop. I'm gonna start running a bit, and the super stability mode definitely helps, but I have to say POCO isn't that far behind either. So it's a close call. Now switching things to the front camera, in terms of selfies, both the phones are pretty much neck to neck. However, POCO's oversharpening does make the image look a tad bit unnatural, simply because it just does too much of it. It's not bad, and I mean, if I had this shot, I would be fine with it, but the Nord shot looks a bit more refined. Turning on the portrait mode, and they're both pretty much at par once again. This is great because while POCO has a depth sensor up front, OnePlus is pushing out these results with the help of an ultrawide sensor. Speaking of the ultrawide sensor, that's another added advantage that you get with the OnePlus Nord. So if you want and you're taking a group selfie, there's always that ultrawide sensor so you can put in more people in the same frame. So that is an added advantage. Moving on to selfie videos.
Okay, so I'm recording 1080p 30fps footage, and already you can see that the HDR is much better on the OnePlus. Anyway, moving to ideal recording conditions, distancing them equally. I think they're both equally zoomed in. Overall the frame looks fine. The POCO is on my right and the OnePlus Nord is on my left. Both the phones have a great recording happening right now. I think the video footage looks a lot crisper on the OnePlus Nord, but it also could be due to the fact that the display is better considering it's AMOLED. On POCO, I can see some overexposure issues happening around my head, around this head. And even the trees in the background are getting overblown. So that is one thing to keep in mind. One more thing, I would say that the black on my t-shirt has an increased contrast. It's a little washed out now. It is black. At least both the phones are showing it as black. But POCO is definitely increasing in contrast. But then again, it could be down to the fact that it's an LCD panel. So I'll once again take a look at it on my desk to see which phone does a better job. I'm just going to pan the camera around a bit so you can get an idea of the HDR to expect. Especially this factor, this area right here. So you can see that definitely the OnePlus Nord has a much better HDR here. POCO isn't that bad, to be very honest, but I guess paying the extra premium for the OnePlus Nord definitely gets you a better quality.
Now moving on to low light photography, POCO allows for slightly more light to get in, but it's mostly noise. With OnePlus, you get accurate colors as well, while POCO isn't always spot on with the color reproduction. Now turning on the night mode helps, but OnePlus produces better results here. Actually, they're just a bit more refined is how I would put it. POCO has oversharpening in the night mode as well to make up for the noise it captures. It's a commonly used method to dehaze and increase clarity, but for what it's worth, it looks super natural to me. Lastly, moving on to low light selfies, they're both average at best and quite similar. There's no night mode on offer on either devices, but you do get the screen flash mode. As you can see, if you have glasses on, it spoils the party, and even then, the image quality is pretty much the same on both the devices. So, who's the real winner here? Okay, so right off the bat, I have to say, for what it's worth, the OnePlus Nord is a better phone. Actually, I'll actually allow me to rephrase that. Instead of calling it better, let's just say that it's more refined. The HDR is better refined, the colors are more spot on, the overall processing is fine, and the sharpness of the image from what the hardware offers along with the software optimization is just well tuned and more suitable to a lot of photographers out there. As for POCO, it's still a great device for what it's worth. The colors are obviously a little bit boosted, but you can tune things as per your liking. The 64 megapixel sensor comes in super handy. The extra sharpness is there. So yeah, I mean, POCO X2 definitely is still offering a much better value for money as compared to the OnePlus Nord, especially considering that there is a difference of 7.5K between both the devices. So yeah, if I had to choose, yes, I would go with the OnePlus Nord. But that is not to say that the POCO X2 does not perform that good. In fact, it still gives OnePlus Nord a run for its money, while not being that good in certain areas, still giving OnePlus a neck-to-neck competition. So yeah, if you have the OnePlus Nord, it's fine. If you have the POCO X2, even then it's fine. And with that, we come to an end of this video. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon right next to it to make sure that you tune in for all our upcoming videos. Also, all our reviews and comparisons at Guiding Tech are not sponsored in any way whatsoever. So all of this thing that you're seeing here is directly coming out of my mind. What I felt like, it's completely my analysis. If you differ from anything, make sure to download all the images in the full res format in the download link and do an analysis for yourself. Comment down below what you think of it. Because trust me, I love to have a discussion with our community what their perception of camera reviews is. Till then, this is Varun from Guiding Tech, and I'll see you in the next one.